This is Red Podcast, episode 231, talking about a book by Aaron Walker. It's called View from the Top, Living a Life of Significance. My thoughts are coming up.
This is the Red Podcast. How to reach more people, establish your authority, and deliver your message. Here's your host, David Hooper.
When it comes to success in the business world, there are a lot of people that have done it once. They build something, it attracts attention, somebody else will come in, buy them out, and then what? These people are never able to replicate that initial success again. They just disappear. There are also people that have success in business, and they're still riding that initial success because they haven't been around long enough for somebody to come buy them out, or they haven't been around long enough to fail. You see this a lot online. Somebody has quick success online. A lot of times that comes with quick notoriety because online messages spread so easily. And that's great, but where are they going to be in 5 years? Where are they going to be in 10 years? Can we really watch somebody who is this new to business? Me personally, I want somebody who's had some longevity. And I like people that have had a little bit of failure, because failure, if you're around long enough, it's going to happen to you. And it's important to know how to get over that failure and go on to the next thing. That's the thing about these guys that have this quick initial success. They've never had failure. Everything's going their way. They start to believe their own hype. The guys that I learned from, I like them to have a little dirt on them, some dings in the armor. And in my hands, I've got a book by a guy just like that. I'm going to talk about it. This is the Red Podcast, the podcast for experts. If you want to make more money selling your specialized knowledge, if you've got a message that you want to spread, you want to make people care about it, this is the podcast for you. This episode is brought to you by createyourlist.com. If you want to create a big mailing list, one that helps you spread your message that's responsive to offers that you send, I've got a free resource for you to check out. It shows you exactly what's working now when it comes to list building, what's working now when it comes to list conversion and engagement. Go to createyourlist.com. Get this free resource now. Your mailing list is like a tree. Best time to start a mailing list? 20 years ago. Second best time? Today. Createyourlist.com. Aaron Walker. You may have seen the name online. You probably thought it was Aaron. It's Aaron. He's like me. He's from the South. He's got a book out. It's called View from the Top, Living a Life of Significance. What does that mean? Well, that's up to you. On the back of it, it says it's time to live the life you've always wanted. Pretty big sell. I met Aaron a few months ago. We were at a meeting at Google Fiber in downtown Nashville. He was presenting some ideas there. I heard his story, talked to him afterwards. He gave me a copy of his book. Again, the book is called View from the Top, Living a Life of Significance, available everywhere books are sold. For more information, visit my episode notes, redpodcast.com/231. I'll take you right to where you can get it. A lot of business books, and I think this one falls into that category. Kind of general, View from the Top, Living a Life of Significance. We've all heard that. It's a general concept. What you consider significance is probably not the same thing that I would consider significance. If you open up the book, which I'm doing now, you look at the chapter titles. It talks about put the big rocks in first. Blindsided. Again, that comes from that longevity that I'm talking about. If you are around long enough, you're going to be blindsided. Breaking free. Finished at 27. I'm going to get into that in just a second. But it's stuff that you've heard before. And I think that when you pick up a book like this, you're not necessarily learning something new, but you are getting a different perspective. And that's important to me. This book, strangely enough, it's got a mountain on the front of it. And that's a perfect analogy for my philosophy on business. There's more than one way to get up that mountain. Again, it's like, what is a life of significance? My version of that is different from your version of that. And our versions of that, it's going to be different than Aaron Walker's version of that. But still, hearing those different perspectives, that's what allows us to put together our own perspective. And that's why I think books like these are worth reading. There are a few things, I've already mentioned a couple of them here, that I was specifically interested in. One, longevity. I like guys that have been in the game for a while. Aaron's done this for 40-something years. He's seen the highs, the lows, and the lows got pretty low. There's some interesting stories about that in here. He's had failure, he's had reinvention, and as I mentioned at the very top of this episode, he's had second-time success. That's something I'm very curious about hearing the stories about because so many people never have that. Quick bio on Aaron. Got into the pawn business as a teenager, sold the business at age 27, sold it to a company you're probably familiar with, Cash America, hundreds of pawn shops across the country. Funny side note, my first business computer I purchased at a Cash America pawn shop in 1995. I was in Memphis, Tennessee, driving down the street one day, said, I'm going to stop in this pawn shop, see if I can pick up a few CDs. Go into this thing. They've got a computer. It's a Macintosh laptop, a PowerBook 160. Old, but not as old in 1995. Slow. Thought I was getting a deal. I think it was $450. Purchased it right there. Got my business online. That's how I went from doing street promotion in the music business to doing online promotion. Aaron selling his business to Cash America was something that was interesting to me because at that point, he'd had an identity as a pawnbroker. He's got more money than he needs to survive. His life is ahead of him. Then what? I was curious about that, but I was also curious about how did he jump in so young? As I mentioned, 1995, when I dropped in that Cash America pawn shop, got the computer that put my business online. I was young too. I was still in college. And I look back on that time and I think, what the hell? What was I doing? What was I thinking? I jumped into a lot of things that I had no business jumping into, at least as far as the knowledge that I had. I had ambition. I had a work ethic. I had curiosity, but I didn't have knowledge. The knowledge I had to pick up as I went. And I'm always curious about people that jump in early and then continue to jump in as their careers progress, because I think there's something about youth that allows us to jump in, and we lose that as we get older. We know too much. Said, that'll never work. That'll never work. But it does work. It works for a lot of us. I don't think I'd be here today over 20 years later had I not jumped in during that time. So I was curious about Aaron jumping in so young, and also what's next? What do you do when you don't have to work? What drives you to get up every day and do the work when you don't need to? So I wanted to know about that. How did Aaron keep the curiosity and drive or whatever that enabled him to get up, jump back in again and again and again? Something else that I was curious about, he had a great pull quote. It was about success being deceptive. And initial success, it is very deceptive. We think we're more successful than we are. I see a lot of it in the popular online gurus, and I know this. I can recognize it because it happened to me. We make a lot of money quickly. We believe our own hype, and we think that it will never end. I was curious about that perspective on success. I don't hear a lot of people talking about it. But I think the highlight in this book, something I was really curious about, it's his perspective on masterminds. And if you're not familiar with the concept of a mastermind, there's a book called Think and Grow Rich. It's an old book, almost 100 years old. It's a classic book. Every entrepreneur of significance that I know has read it, many of them multiple times. If you're interested in the audio book, I'll have a link for you to get a free version of that at redpodcast.com/231. Napoleon Hill, the author, I don't know that he came up with the concept of the mastermind. I think they've been going on forever, but he certainly put it on paper and made it popular. And the concept is that you get together with like-minded individuals, each one of you having the same definitive purpose. And what happens when you get together, and if you're going to do a mastermind group, I suggest 5 to 7 people. That's big enough to where there's enough different types of knowledge coming through, but not so big that it's unruly. When you've got different knowledge and different experiences being shared, Napoleon Hill describes it as a different entity that's formed. The mastermind has its own brain. And there's some very interesting things that can come out of that. You know this, if you've ever brainstormed with a group of people, if you've ever had a meeting where everybody's giving suggestions on something that you can do to improve your business, that's a form of mastermind. Masterminds are actually very common in the business world. A Toastmasters group, a committee. If you go to church, a Sunday school class could be a form of mastermind. Bottom line, I'm a big believer in mastermind. I've done them for years. I actually wrote a book about Masterminds. If you want to hit me up on Twitter, at David Hooper on Twitter, I'll send you a copy of that. Aaron is a big believer in Masterminds as well. And one of the things that he said about Masterminds in this book that I think is interesting and worth mentioning here is something you don't see mentioned often. This is something that screwed me up in the past. I know it's affected a lot of people. It may be affecting you. So let me give you the situation. You join a mastermind, but you get in with the wrong people. And that could be that you're the wrong person. Maybe it's because you're the smartest guy in the room. Sometimes we do that because we've got egos that need to be fed. We want to be the guy that everybody comes to for advice. It's my belief when you're in a mastermind, you want to be the dumbest guy in the room. You want to learn from those other people, absorb the energy, not just give it out. Learn from the other people in the group and build yourself up to their level. Something else I often see with mastermind groups is that you get in with people that you don't trust. Let's say it's a business mastermind. Maybe they've got great success in business, but you don't trust their ethics. And when you don't trust them, you can't be fully open with them. When you're not fully open with them, they sense that they're not fully open with you. So either you're the smartest guy in the room and everybody's kissing up to you, yes men, because they think you're ahead of them, or you've got people that are not being honest with you and you're not being honest with them. So if you're going to do a mastermind, get the right people. Like I said, I wrote a book about this. Happy to send you a copy for free. At David Hooper on Twitter is the way to get me. Reach out, I'll send you one. Overall, I think it's an interesting perspective from a guy who's been there, done that, built several different types of businesses, didn't just stop at one and fade away. It's a nice overview, more than a deep dive. I would have liked to have a bit more depth. Each of these chapters, I feel, could have been its own book. This is a quick read, just under 200 pages. It's going to make you think. It's going to give you an overview of Aaron's personality and what he does. But if you want more depth, you're going to have to contact Aaron and work with him in a different way. There's a Christian perspective throughout the book that may be a plus or maybe a minus to you, depending on your worldview. A word on that, it's one of my 10 commandments for entrepreneurs. The red rules, if you're not familiar with the red rules, redpodcast.com/rules. And that rule is fly your flag. When it's honest, you can get away with a perspective like that, but don't skirt around it. Don't apologize. People who read your books, people who listen to your podcast, view your blog, hear your message, they want a competent and authoritative leader. So don't skirt around it. Again, get the complete list of rules, my 10 commandments, the red rules at redpodcast.com/rules. Is this book for you? It's a mix of old school Napoleon Hill style advice with personal experience. It's good if you like big picture stuff and personal stories. Again, Christian viewpoint. If you like that, it's going to be good for you. If you connect with a family-oriented, old-school mentor, you're going to like Aaron. Some people will think it's a bit basic. It's an overview, not a deep dive. Overall, though, I think you'll get a good handle on Aaron's perspective, and I think that's helpful. Perspective is what makes books like this worth reading, not details. Most books are like this, and I think that as entrepreneurs, as experts, as people with messages to spread, when we study success, messaging, entrepreneurship, we're going to hear a lot of the same things done in a different way. Like I said, overall, that's my business philosophy. There's more than one way up the mountain. We need to hear those different ways so we can come up with our own perspective. And for that reason, I think this is a great book. The book title, again, View from the Top, Living a Life of Significance. Redpodcast.com/231 has links on how you can get it. Next up on Red Podcast, Gay Pride for Straight Businesses. It's all about how you can grow your audience and have better connection with them. If you want that, you want to make sure that you never miss an episode. Redpodcast.com. Up in the top left, I've got a few buttons. One click is all it takes for you to subscribe to Red Podcast in the way you want to subscribe. Apple Podcasts, Google Play. If you listen via the web, one click is all it takes, and you'll never miss an episode. Thank you so much for listening. Reach out to me. If you've got questions, you've got comments, at David Hooper on Twitter is the best way to get me. Don't be shy. Thanks so much, and I'll see you on the next episode.
You've been listening to Red Podcast. Never miss an episode. Subscribe now with your iPhone, Android, or via RSS at redpodcast.com.
But if you want more information, you're going to have to contact Aaron.